Yeah. Sorry, Neil, it's 8 o'clock on our side. Just from my side, I wish to welcome everyone online. We've got various commodities in South Africa represented here today. That's citrus, lucerne, you name them, wine industry, and so forth. And I think it will be a very informative session to be informed by the team there in Japan to discuss the constraints, the opportunities, and so forth. What are the requirements on our side in South Africa, and how can we help them to assist us? I'm now giving over to our chairperson, Mr. Neil Gilbert, to officially welcome you, and then we will ask for introductions from your side as well. Neil, over to you.
Thank you, Christian. Yes, from my side, good morning, everyone. It's nice and cool in some parts of the Western Cape of South Africa today, where I'm sitting. We had a few weeks, or a couple of weeks of really warm days, and we're enjoying this. Today I'm really looking forward to the discussions that's going to take place with regards to trade. Important part of being a farmer is being able to trade, and I'm really looking forward to listen and to hear what you guys down in Japan can tell us. Rian, nice to have you here, and if you can introduce your team, it will be nice. Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize about the mask, but we are currently in the middle of the 9th wave here, and we're running over 50,000 infections a day. So please forgive us. That's unfortunately outside that you can't see our lovely smiling faces, but on my right-hand side, your left-hand side is Ms. Tomoko Yamaguchi.
Pleased to meet you.
She worked in the economic section, responsible for export promotion and investment. And on my left-hand side, your right-hand side, is Mr. Isuata-san, who is from the agricultural section and is our technical expert. So without further ado, it would be incredibly valuable for us, Chair, if you could spend just 3 minutes to give us a sense of Agri SA, and especially for my two colleagues here. I have worked with you extensively. I've been with the GTI 40 years, so most of you might actually probably have met me. So I would just like you very briefly, before we start, that they have an understanding what is Agri SA and what is some of the key commodities that is on the table.
Rian, yes, thank you for the introduction from your side. Nice to meet you all, Tomoko and Mr. Sun. I could not get his name, so I'm just going to say Mr. Sun. Nice meeting you guys. Okay, thank you. Krista, I think you are the ideal person to quickly give them an overview of Agri SA, our membership, and then specifically the commodities that is in the meeting today. Thank you, Krista.
Yeah. Thank you. Agri SA is South Africa's biggest primary agricultural structure representing the voices of our farmers. We have approximately 16,000 members. That's our commercial farmers mostly. And then there's a whole range of commodities that are members of Agri SA, and they form the commodity chamber. Now that range from the grain sector, the wine sector, the meat sector, the dairy sector, the citrus fruit sector, banana sector. Then we also have other commodities that are not necessarily directly linked to Agri SA, but we have an indirect working relationship, and that's now the citrus growers, the pecan nut growers. We also have the macadamia nut growers as a direct member of Agri SA. And then we also have the subtropical fruits, in other words, the people that produce avocados, bananas, and so forth. And our big job is obviously to engage with government to ensure that government creates a conducive policy environment in which agriculture can expand and grow. Our key focus is growing the agriculture sector because food security for us is the key priority. And with that, obviously, exports to the rest of the world earning foreign exchange, but also creating jobs for our people and ensuring that our rural areas are being developed through agriculture. Then obviously we have various centers within Agri SA, Center for Trade and Economics. That center plays a critical role in terms of helping to facilitate these types of discussions and addressing the constraints that impact on exports to the rest of the world. Also addressing issues such as rail constraints or electricity constraints and so forth. And then there's other centers that also deal with other policy issues. But that in a nutshell is what Agri is all about. We are based in Pretoria. We are represented in the 9 provinces throughout South Africa. We are also represented through 25 commodity organizations. And then we have approximately 60 big corporates, that's businesses that provide all kinds of inputs, whether it's machinery, seed, or fertilizer, even diesel. And then we also have a few other players in the banking sector and the retail sector as members of our corporate chamber. Thank you very much, Neil. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. We've prepared a very brief presentation. If you would be so kind as to just allow screen sharing so that we can put this up. With your permission, I would like to request that we do a short presentation, given the amount of people in the room, and that we rather allow people to ask questions at the end, so that we get a better sense of what is the challenges that we may face. Would that be agreeable with you?
Rian, absolutely. We've got a limited amount of time that we can deal with this. So yes, let's make the most of it. I agree with the presentation, and then afterwards questions and see how we can take it from there. So please, Nell, can you just give them permission to share?
I sent you a new one.
Okay, Rian.
Okay, well, tomorrow
share
for the presentation, if you can, I can just do a brief introduction. Japan is currently our 4th biggest trading partner in the world, and we do about 159 billion rand worth of trade with Japan. What is more important is the fact that Japan is the only top 10 trading partner with whom South Africa have a healthy trade surplus. Please, I apologize for just quickly trying to find the presentation.
No problem, Rian.
Can everybody see the screen well?
We can't see anything yet, Rian. Still just pictures of people.
The first thing, I think what is important for this discussion, when we talk about commodities or products, is the screen
Yes,
visible?
we can see it. Yes, we can see it, Rian.
Okay, when we deal with commodities, and this is my first area where I grow gray hair, is the sheer distance between South Africa and Japan. When you export to Japan, please understand that cost is going to be part of the exercise. It is, however, a high growth market for a lot of products. It is an important player in the agricultural import field because Japan is unfortunately not blessed due to its terrain, which 85% is mountainous, with the same open spaces as South Africa, which means that it is by and large a big importer of agricultural products and commodities. The distance is not just in terms of the length of it, but there is very few direct shipping lines, which is sometimes problematic. So often it stops over in Singapore, there's transshipment into China. So a key issue that I need to really impress on you is the principle that you need to look very carefully at your freight and logistics when you do start dealing with Japan. Next slide. Just a very few issues. It's not just the sheer distance, but there's also the infrequency of shipping from South Africa to Japan. It is not like what you are used to in Europe. I've worked for years in Belgium, where you know every 11 days there's a South African ship. So it is very important that you have a very close relationship with your logistical people so that you bring this under their attention and that you also take out the proper insurance. The other issue is that agricultural products is unfortunately vulnerable in the sense that it's fresh. And it is something that is also a major cost contributor. The next is the resumption of direct flights between South Africa and Japan. That existed up to about a decade ago. And then the growth of the hubs like in Abu Dhabi and Emirates in the Middle East have not really made it worth the while of companies doing these really long haul flights. It would have been fantastic for things like flowers, for instance. But at the moment, we have no direct flight. Currently, you should basically count on a 24-hour flight. And if you catch a flight with a bad layover, that could easily extend into 36 hours. So please take this into consideration. South African Airlines is no longer flying to Japan, neither does it fly to Hong Kong. So our advice is look at some of the Middle Eastern airlines, for instance. And then we're still not out of the pandemic. You may have seen that we are still wearing masks here. It is still very disruptive. Logistical supply chains is not where it was in 2019. However, it is slowly but surely recovering, and hopefully on the 8th of May, the government of Japan will in fact downgrade COVID not as a pandemic, but as an ordinary treatable disease. So in essence, we have seen literally nobody in 3 years, and it's only now really opening. The FoodX exhibition is taking place from 7 to 10 March for the first time that we will be able to participate. So do not underestimate this gap we had in the relationship building with Japan. Just a very brief word about Japanese consumers. If you deal with Japanese consumers, the first and most important thing is that more is less. So all aspects of acceptable quality, such as product quality, label, product explanations, background stories, the display and the pricing must be relayed. It is not like in the West or South Africa where a single picture may tell a story. Here, you need to assume that the customer wants to know everything. and it will have to be in Japanese as well. So please bear in mind that that is something that at some stage you will have to pay attention to. Japanese consumers do not compromise on quality and presentation, and they also do not mind to pay more if they are actually convinced that it is a good product. Let us take rooibos tea. In 2006, there was just about 1,000 tons of rooibos tea coming into. It took 10 years to bring rooibos tea where it is today, the biggest destination in the world for rooibos tea. One company, E2N, does 600,000 tons a year. You can imagine how much that is. So it replaced Germany in 2019 as the single biggest destination. Next slide, please, Timothy. I'm trying really to compress a 3-day seminar into 20 minutes, so please bear with me. In terms of requirements, the moment the word agriculture feature into the conversation, the first issue is phytosanitary controls. And all those technical requirements is regulated by the Ministry of Agriculture, Forest and Fisheries in Japan. For instance, citrus, maize, alfalfa. Now, Isohata-san have been working very, very hard, but it took us almost 14 years to get citrus passed. At the moment, avocados is on the verge, and that has taken how long, Isohata-san?
Few months. Right.
How much?
Few months.
But how many years since we began? 15? 10 years for the avocado. So it's a long haul market in terms of commitment. And it's very important that you are working in close association with the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development in South Africa, because agricultural negotiations is done by that specific government department. So for instance, the citrus, they have fought this thing over the last decade into actual exports. It would be critical for Agri SA to, I really think, also make a concerted effort to engage, because they sit a few kilometers from you in Pretoria, and it's sometimes easier at a technical level. So one of the recommendations I would like to make is that you, as a matter of serious intent, engage them, because they will be negotiating on your behalf. Then there's the issue of animal quarantine, like in most countries. However, in South Africa, there's the specter of foot and mouth disease, for instance, which even has an impact on alfalfa, or lucerne as we know it, because some animal that had foot and mouth may have infected the lucerne. These things are taken very seriously here, and if you do not comply, your products will not come in. And that is why the link with agriculture in South Africa, and you're a powerful organization, and you have the clout of your members. I think that it's not only healthy, but it's efficient that you speak to them. Animal health control, believe it, you actually see meerkats here in pet shops, which I think is abhorrent. I don't think any of your members are in the field of live animal exports, but that is a particular problematic one. The last is food safety control. This is technical regulations, and it varies from product to product. And that goes back to my original question to the chair, whether we should perhaps devote more time to the question side to understand some of the problems. Next slide. Now here is a cross section, thank you Isohata-san for this, of what we are currently doing with Japan. It's not a long list, but it's an important list. I think I saw Alphonse Visser's name also. He was here last week. He has some very creative ideas about products that they wish to enter into the Japanese market, and they have exported successfully. So I really want to also inspire you that it is possible to do business in this market if you understand that logistics plays an issue. The very stringent health and phytosanitary regulations, the rewards are there. Once you've dealt with a Japanese company and they trust you and they had a repeat order from you, they will basically import to you from life. KWV has just celebrated their 60th year with their importer in Japan. I don't think that is beatable in any other market that I know. Last slide. So in terms of prohibited items, there's a sort of rule of thumb, mostly fresh products, meat and fruit. Some processed products, but then it's an issue of ingredients, and each of those ingredients differ, and so does the treatment of it. So the work that we have to do with you is going to be very much on an individual level. At the moment, as I said, the fresh fruit, avocados is under negotiation. We hope to finish it this year. I think we're all praying for that. Where are we with mango?
They suspended because of the one commodity, one country principle of the bank.
It's an important thing that Isohata-san is bringing to the table. Japan, unlike other countries, only negotiate one product at a time, which means you have to go the full lengthy circuit, and only once all the protocols in the work plans is signed off will they move on to a new product. So beef and ostrich, I still foresee a long way ahead. But in essence, Chair, if we could perhaps go into the discussion phase, I think that might also be helpful and guide us on how to go forward. I just want to note that we had sent through a document we prepared on trade barriers in Japan, which I hope you will distribute to the members. And that will give you a clear summary of currently prohibited products or products where there are very specific barriers to trade in place. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Rian. This was quite insightful. And I see there's already hands and people would like to ask questions. If you can just stop the screen share so we can see everybody's faces, would appreciate it. Okay, first hand up was AJ Griesel. So we're going to start with AJ. AJ is from the Table Grape Institution, South African Table Grapes. AJ?
Yes, morning, Neil. Thank you. Yes, currently on table grapes, we've got access for only one cultivar into Japan. And to us, it's really a concern on how the scientists deal with this matter, because in our mind, the table grape's a table grape and it's been proven all over the world. Is there any recommendation on how we can actually go about in fast tracking this process?
So,
Yes. So as Mr. Rian has indicated, now our government is negotiating with MAF for the market access on the avocado. And our department of agriculture in Pretoria, they are still deciding the next priority. So it could be now the citrus or it could be the table grape. So if you can engage with the plant health directorate to recommend the table grape as a next commodity, and then maybe it could speed up your preferences. I hope it's answered your question.
Yes, maybe just to clarify the question. So we've got access for table grapes. So all we want is an extension on the cultivar list that is approved. It's not a new application. Table grapes in essence has been approved by Lancaster cultivar. It was done years ago. And we've now been struggling to actually get that list to be extended to include other cultivars.
So let me also rephrase my answer then. And then if you try to include the other range of the cultivar, that also will be treated as a new application for the government of the Japan. So currently we are working for the avocado. So unfortunately it will be the next market access negotiation.
Okay, thank you. AJ, I think what we'll do is we'll we'll take that one, and we'll deal with it as time goes on. Next up, Justin Chatwick from the Citrus.
Yeah, thanks, Neil, and hello, Rian. Good to see you.
Hey,
and
Justin.
yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, so my question is similar to AJ's, but there are two parts to my question. One is we've got a similar issue with clementines, where we only allowed clementines in terms of soft citrus and no other soft citrus. Just some background. I know Hilton Zankel, a trade lawyer, is on this call as well. The US did take Japan to the WTO in terms of this varietal issue, where they just take one variety at a time, which is absolutely ridiculous. In other words, they don't allow all soft citrus, or they don't allow all table grapes. They do one at a time. And I mean, there are hundreds of varieties of these different fruits. So you can imagine how long it'll take to get all of these things through. And no other country in the world does it. Anyway, Japan lost that case, but it was an individual case between the US and Japan. As such, it only related to US products and not universal. Hilton, I'm probably explaining it quite badly, but there's a lot of literature on this US varietal case, as they call it. And I do think that maybe we as South Africa need to just take that up with Japan and try and get this whole variety thing sorted out that AJ has also alluded to. The second issue is what is referred to in terms of the one product at a time. So there are other countries that do one product at a time, but that's for new market access. In other words, a new product. The issue of reviewing present protocols is dealt with concurrently in other countries. Japan is this only one that seems to think that you do this reviewing or revision or re-looking at a protocol as part of the sort of sequencing of market access issues. And it also makes absolutely no sense that you've got revision issues that line up behind new market access issues. So I think we need to take that up with MAF and try and get them to understand that that's not how the world works. It's how they work, and they're the only ones that do it that way. Just by the way, Rian, citrus has been exported since 1972, so that's 51 years ago, pretty close to I think you referred to wine or some other product. And has been, Japan has been a fantastic receiver of citrus, specifically grapefruit, for many years. And just while I've got the mic, I'd like to thank you and the embassy there for your support. Every year you help us with the launch of the grapefruit at the beginning of each year, and it's fantastic, and we really appreciate it. So thanks for this opportunity, and I think we do need to do some work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Rian, would you like to comment on Justin or say anything?
I was telling colleagues the other day, 24 years old, I just look 64. It is an important thing to understand that this is a way of working in Japan. There is, however, a very important development, and I think, Jason, you guys may have been involved last year, and that was the initiative that is called the Japan-South Africa Business Forum, which is supposed to be a forum where problems between the two countries at an economic level gets ironed out. At the end of the first one, there were 9 specific key issues that was brought to the table. And the one issue, which is of direct concern to the community that we are this afternoon discussing this, is the issue of market access in Japan. Now, the next one, I'm told, is not in the too distant future. So it is incredibly important that not just perhaps from the oranges perspective, but rather as an industry body who face a long list, as long as my arm and longer, of prohibitions in Japan, is perhaps to request that you form part of the next meeting to make a presentation about market access. Because both ministers in Japan, in South Africa, monitors this thing and monitors progress. It is very important, I think, that Agri SA positions itself as one of the champions for market access. And once that gets closer, and let me rephrase, the moment I hear when the next one is going to take place, I will immediately let you know who to deal with at the Department of Industry, Trade, Industry and Competition. They, for instance, work with the Department of Agriculture in South Africa so that you have a joint agenda. Because one of the weird things is in South Africa, wine, which is technically an agro processing product, is handled by the Department of Trade and Industry and not Agriculture. So that is why those two departments are already working together in this platform. So a very specific outcome from this meeting should be that you discuss this at board level and throw it to members, because every little bit help. If you're just going to sit and wait, it will never get there. There needs to be some way that the Japanese government is reminded that these prohibitions have a direct impact on job creation, on innovation, on rural development, which is incredibly important in South Africa. So I would like to leave that with you, Chair, to perhaps have an in-house discussion. For instance, the wines also presented at the last one. I will keep you posted on this. Thank you.
Rian, thank you very much for that advice. We will definitely make use of it and yeah, take it seriously going forward. And thank you for you'll be giving us a heads up when the next meeting takes place. Thanks a lot for that. Alphonse Visser, the Lucerne guys, been up next.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to touch on 3 commodities. The first one will be Lucerne. I visited Rian. He pushed me in for time last week when I was in Japan. On alfalfa, in the past it was grazed in South Africa by animals. Therefore, the old law is still on the foot and mouth. We start exporting alfalfa to Middle East from 2011 and open trade with China from October 2018. Alfalfa is handled as a highly irrigation commodity. So it's inspected, every field is inspected by Delrat. There's no grazing in irrigation in alfalfa like in the past. So it's handled like citrus, it's handled like any other commodity under food safety regulations. Yesterday I called Dr. McDonald Molatu, and he confirmed with me, for his chief of Delrat, he confirmed with me we have to change the rules that alfalfa has been exported to Japan, not currently. That's why my concern is. We do a lot of it, 1.2 million rand of not 1.2 billion of export to China and Middle East. So we want to add Japan to that. The regulations of China to foot and mouth are exactly the same as Japan. So China have already approved the inspection of the fields with a code of export of every grower for alfalfa. So we just have to take a few steps forward, and then the 1.5 million tons that Japan is importing from US and other countries, South Africa, Southern Hemisphere, can help them very fruitful and having importing alfalfa also, same as Middle East and China. That is alfalfa one. Then on groundnuts, I'm also in that industry exporting a huge amount to Japan. And there we've got some uneven levels on import duties. Our export to Japan 2011 was 20% of the imports. Currently, it's 8% of the imports. The main reason is US import duties is 0. Australia import duties is 0. And that put a bit of unevenness on a South Africa farmer compete in that market. So we are have the same cultivars and things that Texas is that they import, mainly Spanish. So I want to know how we take it forward to get a level playing field of and reducing the 10% import duty to 0%. On pecans, our chair of pecans, Ivan Otto, is also on the call. On pecans is a similar story. Pecans has been down from Australia and US up to 0%. South Africa is still 4.5% pecan duty. So there is also uneven playing field. And the pecans in South Africa is increasing by production 10 to 15% every year. So we're looking for new opportunities. And Japan is a very big opportunities to export these three products also too. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alphonse. It looks like you've been a busy guy dealing with Japan. Justin.
Yeah, thanks. So just to follow up to Rian's response, I was fortunate to have been invited by Minister Patel to present at the Japan RSA Business Forum last year in June. And we did raise all of these issues. And we also had an opportunity to engage with His Excellency Maruyama, who is the Japan ambassador in South Africa. He was very upset because we indicated that we had been engaging for 20 years, and I repeat, 20 years on the revised citrus protocol, and he promised to take it up. But as I say, that was June last year, and nothing's happened since then. So there isn't a sense of urgency, and really, I think apart from the scientific intervention, we do need political intervention in getting some of these things moving. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Rian, I've got two questions in the chat box. One is from Ramona. She's driving at the moment, and she says there's a lot of noise. It's about abalone. Ask if there's a ban on abalone export. They were denied participation by DTIC on the National Pavilion at the Food Expo. So if you can answer that.
Can I just ask, I'm going to ask Isoata-san to respond, but he's also got a technical issue that he just brings to your attention. So if we can hit two birds with one stone with your permission, Chair.
Perfectly, Rian, perfectly.
Thank you very much, Chair. So I wanted to make the two comments on the issue raised by Mr. Justin from the CGA. The first one is the varietal issue for the soft citrus. So it's true that Japan lost to the US on that issue. And I'm also aware that around 2002, Japan also lost the US for the apple, for the same varietal issue. So as you suggest that it's one possibility to raise it at the political level. But also other challenge is that according to WTO, they got regulation. And then Japan actually treated the other country as an equal. So there is no discrimination in that case. So we can argue that technically, but there is no the violation of the direct violation of the international trade regime. So it could be a little bit difficult to win the dispute at the WTO. We can raise the issue, but and also the second point that you mentioned is that the one commodity treatment at one time. So as you remember that we are also now amending the status protocol, and then to maximize there's two elements for the amendment. One is the technical part that you suggest that to raise the temperature or to avoid the stringent cold treatment. And the other is that the procedure element of the protocol. That means that we are trying to now remove the SAPQ, the cold check in the Japan. So for the procedural part, so actually they are in parallel amending. And by the end of this month, we are supposed to get their formal letter as their formal response. So we should differentiate and also distinguish the technical and also the procedure element of the protocol itself. And also the one comment for that the alfalfa. To get into the alfalfa into the Japanese market, so we need to pass two standards. So first one is the phytosanitary control. So that is a simple, just we need to attach the phytosanitary the certificate issued by the Department of Agriculture. And the second thing is it's the animal health, the quarantine issue. So that is because unfortunately the foot and FMD, foot and mouth disease, is a dominant in South Africa. So that's why it's the prohibited item now. But for that, we have been engaged with the MAC for the couple of years. And then now we have the two solutions. Number one, to use the treatment as the heat treatment. So that means that if the both country, the Department of the Agriculture agree that the certain condition for the heat, the treatment for the alfalfa, and then you will be able to start export the alfalfa to Japan. And the other solution is that even though the South Africa is not free from the foot and mouth diseases, in a certain part of the South Africa, like the eastern part of the Limpopo, and also the eastern part of the Mpumalanga, that area is free from the foot and mouth disease. And then to realize your export, in the Department of the Agriculture, they need to write a letter with the questionnaire that the MAC submit to our department to say that the certain condition of the certain area of the South Africa is free from the foot and mouth diseases. And then if the MAC approves that, and then it's the same, that you will be able to export the alfalfa to the Japan by lifting the ban.
Okay, Tomoko-san will talk to the abalone question.
Yes, if the abalone is dead abalone can be imported. And if the abalone can be consumed or purchased immediately after the landing in Japan, then you can export from South Africa to Japan. Otherwise, there is some issues to be solved before.
No lie. No lie.
Dead, or you can purchase immediately after the landing.
Okay, Rian, so thank you, Tomoko. If I understand correctly, it needs to be dead or processed, but no live abalone can be exported to Japan currently.
It's alive. It should be purchased or consumed immediately after landing in Japan.
Okay, thank you, Rian. Then there's a question from Jaco Kukumur, and it's with regards to seed potatoes export to Japan. Any opportunities for that, or any reasons why it can't be on the list for exports? We've got some time, Rian. Give me time. Jaco, can you just maybe explain seed potato exactly to everybody on the call?
Good morning, all. Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. Table potatoes to export that. Yeah, I think the logistical constraints will have an influence on the quality, but seed potatoes are there to plant table potatoes, and South Africa's seed potato is very sought after in the world. So I'm just exploring the opportunity to see if Japan might have a need for seed potatoes. So they will use that seed potatoes to plant their own crops in Japan. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
It's marketing.
Thank you, Jaco.
He's asking the demand for the potatoes.
I know he's asking, can we bring the seed potato in?
Export to from South Africa.
Can you? Sorry, we're trying to converse in 3 languages. My apologies.
That's fine, Rian.
May I suggest? I think we should look at this in a more comprehensive way. Would you be so kind to drop your email to us and let us look at this properly, rather than to speculate and not give you the response? If you can let me have that as quickly as possible, we will have a look at it between both the agricultural and the trade section, and advise what is the possibilities. As to be honest, at this very moment, I do not know, and maybe the opportunity is I've never heard this question.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I have sent my email to everybody. Yeah, and that's all I needed to do. It will be very, very interesting if, or good if we can introduce our potato certification industry to Japan.
Okay, thank you, Jaco. Yes, Rihanna, I think what we'll do is we've got still about 15 minutes left on this call. If there's any questions, people, please partake. Otherwise, what we'll do is get an email out and that they write us a list and we can send that to you if we've got your email address. And let's start, like you say, on a very organized way. Take it from the top and see where it ends up and get some good answers from you. I see we've got Leon de Beer, International Wool Congress to be hosted in Kyoto, Japan next year. Stats indicate SA exports no wool to Japan. Any potential for wool exports, greasy or early processed wool, and where does the industry start with the process?
Wool.
It's been mohair. I only know mohair.
Mohair is coming in, and there is some.
And some company is purchasing wool and mohair in South Africa for suits as a textile. And few years ago, there is some videos spread out to on the YouTube about some not nice treatment to the sheep. And then many leading companies like Zara or Uniqlo stopped using South African wool or mohair. And since then, we haven't promoted so proactively about mohair, but we can look for that opportunity again if you request it.
Thank you, Tomoko. Yes, definitely. Yes, so social media got the best of the wool industry, looks to me. So Leon, I think it's the same like we've requested Jaco. Let's put it on an email, send it to Rian and team in Japan. We get the issues and then we take it from there. We've heard from the beginning, in the very beginning, the Japan consumers are they like the information. They would like to know what's going on. Is it safe? How it's being treated? All the information they like to do informed buying of whatever it is they're buying. So it looks like there's a process that needs to be started and take it from there. Okay. Okay, it's just Christo sent a letter to Agri SA, compile a brief. Okay, we've got that. Any other questions from the call? I see on the list that although we've been dealing quite well with KWV, I see wine is on a list of trade obstacles. Ostrich meat, we've dealt with that. Oysters, I also see pork, importation of pork, and that's due to bird flu BSE. I don't know if there's somebody from the pork industry. Yes, Yolanda, if you've got something to say or ask.
Morning, Neil.
Oh, you're on. Oh, there's one. Morning, you're on.
Maybe just, I think morning, Neil, and all the others. I think the remark was made that there's a possibility if we do heat treatment. So I think for us, maybe for Dewald also, it would be appropriate if we just understand what the conditions for heat treatment means and what it should look like. I think at this stage, we acknowledge the foot and mouth and ASF. So we're going to look for maybe a different pathway to go into Japan with a different product that's just being fresh. So I think the heat treatment for us would be the concept that we need to understand.
Thank you, Johan. I think that would go the same way for ostriches, ostrich meat. Also, the question with regards to heat treatment. Rian, I don't know if you would like to answer now or whether we should send a proper email through and you can answer on that.
I think what is important is please send as much information as you can about the product, like the seed potatoes. I'm intrigued by the question because I've been here almost 4 years and it's never popped up. And this is for me the absolute value of a conversation like this, is that something like this comes up that we can really sink our teeth into. So if there are issues like the pork, we will have a look at it, but communicate with us. Tell us what is the current state of the pork industry in South Africa? What is the methodology that we follow when we export to other markets? It makes it very difficult for Isohata-san at a technical level to look things up if we don't understand in what is the state of the industry.
Rian, thank you very much. It makes a lot of sense. And I think that will be the next project that Agri SA will facilitate. Obviously, our commodities, they are the experts, and they're already exporting all over the world. And I think it's a good start just to say, so what is the process that you're going through to export to the rest of the world? And maybe it could be a short path to get that on the list of exporting somewhere between 1 year and 10 years to get it done. Can I see there's no more questions on the chat? No more hands. Brian, I don't know, in conclusion, if you would like to say something before I sum up.
Can I say something on the meat issue?
Please.
Thank you for raising that issue. And then actually for the pork, it's also the prohibited product from the South Africa to Japan because of the foot and mouth diseases. But as the specialist suggested, if the mitigation measure for the risk can be suggested, and then that will be the negotiable. And then, for example, for the beef and the ostrich, and then Department of Agriculture, we have already submitted to the request market access. And actually, the heat treatment itself are now under the negotiation. And then the proposal for the heat treatment, it's now discussed at the Department of Agriculture, Animal Health Directorate. So if you can contact them, and then you can get the more concrete and the vivid idea on what we are discussing now.
Thank you very much. That makes a lot of sense. Johan Dewald, Pitklein, you guys have heard him. Let's deal with it in that way. Tomoko, any last words from you?
Yes, basically, or in general, Japanese government or in Japan, people are so afraid of some unknown insects or unknown thing to coming into Japan. So they are so careful about the hygiene issue. And so please keep in mind that really Japanese government is extra careful about the hygiene issue. So even though you are eating every day meat and pork and everything in South Africa, or you are exporting to other countries, but in Japan, it takes, that kind of steps to get into the market. So please keep in mind that it will be happening shortly or takes longer, but it's surely coming. So please be patient.
Tomoko, thank you very much for those words. And yes, we do respect the Japanese government and the rules. Obviously, they've got very certain reasons why they're doing it, and we've got respect for that, and we would not like it otherwise. Rian?
Okay, summary. First practical issue. Although there are still severe restrictions on travel to Japan, just make sure that you check with your company with whom you fly, because sometimes they have higher restrictions than the actual destination. I'm just saying that because a number of people have been very angry in that they have complied with the Japanese free vaccination rule, and then they were not allowed onto the airplane in Johannesburg because of the rule that the airline have. So from a membership perspective, just ask people, because we're going to see a lot of people traveling in for the FoodX show. If you could please just note that it is now more common than ever for the airline to have more stringent rules than the actual destination. I think what is critical in South Africa is that in our history, we have never really cohesively, like you are doing now, dealt with government on how to improve conditions in third countries. I really would like to implore you to have this internal discussion about the business forum. It is so critical that the Japanese get a sense of what the potential would be for South African agricultural products if we can come to an arrangement on, for instance, more than one product at a time. Currently, we are under a GSP system with Japan. Now, this has never been done, but being South Africans, I think it's an envelope that we should push. The nation that gives the GSP, in this case, Japan, may actually grant unilateral relief. And it has never been done, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't try. So from that market access perspective within the business forum, this hard question needs to be asked to the Japanese on an official platform where there are two political leaderships in the room. What prohibits the third biggest economy in the world from leveling the playing field for South Africa on a select number of products? Wine would profit. Alphonse have explained about the nuts, and including the ground nuts. There's a lot of products where South Africa materially can improve its trade with Japan. And I can tell you now that the material effect on Japan's economy would be negligible. It is within their right to do so. The problem that they face is then that every other country is going to say, but you gave South Africa unilateral GSP treatment. Can we also have that? So you need to understand why this is a delicate subject. But this is about national interest. We are worried about our people, about our rural development. I really think as industry, at some stage, we will have to bring this to the forum and say, what would it harm an economic giant like Japan to grant South Africa equal treatment? Our wines is a good example. You can literally see our wines decline by almost 1 million liters over a 10-year period since there was the FTA with the US. So our products get discriminated at 15%. That's a consumer item that people buy in the supermarket. 15% makes a hell of a difference. So my impassionate plea today is that this is perhaps a very critical meeting in the sense that we can help on the individual products. But there's a broader issue at hand, and that is that industry, in this case, the agro-processing industry, should speak in a single, coordinated, well-constructed message to government to say, this is the message you need to tell the Japanese government. It is absolutely critical. From our side, on the individual side, we will have a talk. Tomorrow is a bit difficult, but we'll chat on Monday, the three of us, and see how we can fast track some of these issues. I just need to caution that 7 to 10 February, we will be out of the office for FoodX. So if you have a crisis, get me on I pick up my messages on my phone, but we might not be able to respond as quickly as normal. Thank you very much.
Riaan, yes, to you and your team, thank you very much. It has been insightful. And from what I heard today, there's opportunities. I didn't hear any hands off, nothing, no deals. But what I also heard is that we have to start by building proper relationships, respect for each other, and that will result in trust. And once there's trust and everything is in place, we can look forward to a long, healthy relationship of doing business going forward. What I also heard from you is that in South Africa, we as the commodities and Agri SA and whoever is involved needs to do this collectively and organized and have a good method in dealing with our own Department of Agriculture and having conversations with you from government to government. We will take that up. We will do that. And I'm looking forward to the next meeting that we're having either in South Africa or again on Zoom. Christo, if there's anything that you would like to add.
Well, just thank you, Riaan and the team. We really appreciate this meeting. It really came sort of out of the blue, but this is what we intend to do, to have a range of these webinars throughout the course of the year, just to give our commodities a better understanding and to now broaden the network and give them the opportunity to directly engage with you on specific commodity exports. Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone that has attended.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's 9 o'clock on the dot. Perfect timing. Hope you guys have a good day. And Franley will send out an email to everyone with a short summary of what was said today. Give it 24 hours. She's only been in our office for 14 days, still trying to catch her and find her feet. Have a nice day, everyone.
Goodbye.
Right.
Thank you.
Let's wait for them.